I recently attended the Appalachian College Association Teaching and Learning Conference, and this is just a quick video to show you a little bit of what was covered. So first, a couple of quick little tips of things that were covered. One of them is called the dyad. So the dyad is a strategy where you create partners, and then one member has the floor, then the other is only allowed to listen. And when they're listening, the listener is not allowed to talk. This is typically a timed activity. You do a short amount of time, like about a minute. You can go longer if your students are used to it, but a minute is a long time for one person to just talk about a topic. And then as far as the content goes, when you first start using dyads, you're going to want to keep it light, start with something simple that they can talk about pretty easily. And then if you really like it and your students are responding to it, then you can use the dyad with more in-depth content. All right, next one is a reading method. This is for text that students have a hard time comprehending. It's called Jigsaw. And so the way it works is you create small groups. Each group reads a section of the document, and then they all become experts on that one section. Then each person splits up, they meet with the people from other groups, and then each member teaches the content that they became the expert on to the rest of their new group. So that's called the Jigsaw method. Another thing that was talked about was promoting mindfulness, and I'm going to send an attachment that covers a little bit of what was covered. So it talks about self-compassion. This is highly valuable for anyone who's doing performances, but it works for other students. One thing you can use with it is to take a little bit of time for a quiet reflection at the beginning of the class or in the middle of the class. Another thing is being aware of negative self-talk, looking for that both when you're talking to yourself or thinking about yourself, but also helping students recognize it in themselves. And then you can use your breath to help focus on the present. And then there's three other areas: building rapport, interteaching, and picture this. These are bigger topics that I thought I want to cover a little bit more in depth, so they're covered on their own slides, and we'll get to those right now. All right, so failure is not an option. This is about resilience, and it was taught by Dr. Bill Buskus from Auburn University. And so there's a few things he talked about in his presentation. One thing was that failing students are often not aware of what it takes to study effectively. So they have this idea that any studying they do is going to be effective, but that's not really true. And they think that as long as I'm trying to learn the material, that's what matters. But the truth is that how students study is just as important as the fact that they are studying. Another thing that he talked about was rapport, and I'll get to more detail on that. So rapport plays an important role in student performance, and being an excellent teacher requires that rapport. So you start out building rapport and building trust, and that's preemptive stuff that helps prevent problems in the first place. All right, so building rapport, just give you an idea of what rapport is. So it's a faculty member who's encouraging, flexible, interesting, accessible, positive. Approachable is a really big one. A faculty member who promotes discussion within the classroom, expresses interest in the students. These are all the kinds of things that when you think back to the professors that you had in the past that really stood out to you as really high quality professors, these are the characteristics that they probably showed within the classroom. Oh, and being fair. And so here's just a little infographic to kind of show you a little bit about it. So this is professional competency. This is how well you know your material, and this is your rapport. And so we can kind of make a grid out of those of high and low and so forth. And then if we break that up, excellent teaching really happens right here, where you've got this high rapport and high competency. So if you've got high competency but low rapport, the best you can do is good. And if you've got high rapport and low competency, then you're really fair at best. So really, to be an excellent teacher, you're going to have both of those. And this is supported by data. I'm going to send with this video an attachment that covers a little bit of that data. So in 2005, they looked at rapport and without rapport, the faculty members whose students rated highly and faculty who were rated poorly for rapport. And you can look across the board, all these different things with rapport, it scores higher, drastically higher than without, except in this one category, which is the likelihood of dropping the class, in which case bad rapport actually increases the chances that they would drop the course. And these are real numbers. This is real information. They did the study again in 2015, looked at the data, and it stays pretty much the same. So this is something that for 10 years has stayed just as valuable. All right, so just another quick note on building rapport. So student attitudes about the class and teacher, those are not permanent. So if you've started the course and you have a sense that your rapport is not really good, that can change. Or if a student jumps in and they think that the course is going to be terrible, they think they don't like you, that relationship and that rapport can change. And then we as faculty members, of course, can change as well. So he talked about, you really should be doing your best to try and improve every semester. And then one quick little tip of something that you can do to help build rapport right from the get-go is sending an email to your students, just a welcoming email. You can talk about what book is required and what you're going to require, but you can talk about other things as well. But something to help get things started is a quick welcoming email. All right, so here's another presentation that was done, is also done by Dr. Bill, interteaching. And this is really cool stuff. Here he talked about prep guides. This is something I think some of you guys might want to use. So the prep guide starts with a solid essay question that covers the reading. And here's an important part. It's something that's supposed to be done before the class starts. So they've got their reading, and they have a short essay question that covers the concepts from the reading. It's worth 5 points, and it gets graded immediately. I'll talk about that in a second. So the second component of the prep guide is additional questions and discussion. And this is handled as a group, so the groups are going to work on these. And while that's going on, then the instructor is doing a quick skim of these ticket to class short essays, and they're getting graded for 5 points for being complete and seeming to get the gist. And then the last thing in these prep guides is a project-based learning activity. In his case, usually that was a scenario. So he'd give them a realistic type scenario, and then again with their group, they would work to write about how they would handle that given scenario. It's really cool stuff. I'm going to attach a example of one of his prep guides so you can take a look through it. All right, and then another strategy was picture this. This one warranted expanding out a little bit too. This was by Dr. Veronica, and she found, as many of you probably have found as well, students frequently come into class and they're struggling with the reading, and that's either because they just didn't read it or because they read it but they didn't really grasp the concepts. And so what she started doing was this activity she called Picture This. And what she would do is have them get into groups, and then those groups would have, before they got into groups, you give them a little bit of time to quickly review the text. Then they got into the groups, and then they would create a visual piece representing the information that they learned. And that can be a diagram, it can be a drawing, stick figures, it can be whatever, just something that represents what they learned. Then in her case, she used papers that she stuck up around the class, and then one member of the group would stay behind, explain their drawing, and the other two would go and visit other illustrations. And it's just a quick, easy way to really promote comprehension of the material that they've read. All right, so thanks for watching, and contact me if there are any areas of the things that were covered in this that you'd like me to expand on more. I would love to hear about it, and thanks again for watching.